This is what bothers me, and I want you officers to listen, especially if you officers are out there from OSP. So if you're there at OSP, I want you to listen to what I'm saying. And I understand covering up, covering your butt. Something happens, you don't report everything. You're limited to what you say. You just work on all of that kind of stuff. But here's the thing. In this case, I have pretty good evidence, and I believe that there's a group of officers fixing to perjure themselves. And you're going to go into a murder trial, and I've received what y'all are saying. And so here's what's funny, is that we have on Bob, I think it was the 13th. I'd have to go back and look at it. But this incident happened on a Thursday. And if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to go back and look at her calendar. But then we had a OCP live the next following Friday. And what we had received calls when this incident happened, we had received calls that the female officer went down, went by this cell. The inmate in the cell said, "Hey, my cellie's dead." She continues on, finishes the count, goes back to the control room, sits for a while at the control room, and then says, "Hey, by the way, that guy down there is dead. That guy told me his cellie was dead." They send somebody who is now, I think, been moved. They send somebody down there to check, and that person says yes, and then they start all this process. Now, if you go back and look at what they're saying, they say she walked by the cell, thought that they were both alive, thought she saw movement, and then the guy got up after she got down about 2 cells, 3 cells down. The guy hollered at her and said, "Hey, I just got up and my cellie's dead." Now, that's kind of the story they're telling. Guys, that's perjury. I understand you wanting to cover, and I understand it looks bad. But again, if you went by
yourself in the prison, if that's what they're saying. But what I understand was everybody at the prison, everybody at OSP knew what happened.
How many calls did we were on OCP that next Friday, if I'm not mistaken. We got to go back and pull it out. But I know we talked about this on one of our OCPs before we ever knew anything really about this murder. I didn't get involved in the murder till quite some time later. Right. And we were talking about it, not knowing it was the same thing. But we were talking about how in the world would you keep on going past that and doing this. We were saying, "Golly, what in the world's going on?" Because we had received so many calls about
JJ, she didn't know whether that guy just died just then or 15 minutes ago or 20 minutes ago. He could have been alive when she went by there. He'd been going to die. She didn't do anything, call anybody, do anything.
I think that he had been dead for a while, but it's possible. You know, you never know. That's why you should act immediately, because in the next scenario, maybe the guy's still alive. You know, who knows?
They move the body, and even I know you don't do this. They move the body right away.
That's what we're hearing. Yes.
No, they put it in the report.
Well, if you have that report, possibly.
Well, I don't have it, but I've been told. But this is a very serious situation that these officers are going to get into.
Here's the deal. There's no question, Bob. I can go out and publicly say that I have reason to believe that they botched, and I have good reason to. I have lots of reason to believe that they botched the investigation, and I believe, and I have reason. I'm not just saying this. When I come on here and say something, we don't just come on here and say, we have reason to think, and I don't sit here and say I have absolute proof or absolute certainty that this is going on. But, well, I say that, yeah. Bob, I have a very, very good reason to say they botched the investigation and that they were going to cover it up. And I'm not saying that just outside my mouth. I think I could prove that.
AJ, I will put money on it where they put him at. That inmate has probably done the same thing before.
Oh, I would think, Bob, there's going to be a history, and that's what we want. You can't get anything from the Department of Corrections. Here's what's funny, Bob. Somewhere they come out with the report that take our word. Basically, we stand by our investigation. We stand under this.
That's what he said.
Investigation? What investigation? Did you go back and look at the history of this guy and how violent he was, and why you're going to put this guy in that cell with him, and what you're doing? Why would you do that? What time did you do it? Why is that guy at OSP? Why is he in there a year after he should have been out? What appears, and here's the deal: why do you keep switching the discharge dates? And we've got them snapshot of them changing. Why did you put the discharge date 9/12? Why did you tell the family he'd get out 9/12? Then you tell them he'd get out 9/20. Did you already know he was dead when you said that? We'd have to go back. When did they tell that? All of these things that you want to talk about. This thing's messed up. And Bob, I'm already working on another. And here's what's funny. Now that we know the pattern, now that we know the protocol, guess what? What we need is people. We need some real investigators. If I was a lawyer, I would hire an investigator. I would go get all those 350, 400 cases of the medical examiner that has died, and then I would turn around and put an investigator to look at all of this stuff that we're talking about. How many suicides do you think that are actually homicides that they just covered up? I mean, hey, all you got to do, Bob, I don't know if the inmates are listening, but if you wanted to get away with murder, all you got to do is get a piece of rope or a sheet or something, hang them up. I guess if they had 40 stab wounds, as long as it's hanging, well, he committed suicide. Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing, JJ, on this particular situation with this Ross, I think is the last name.
Marquell Ross, yes.
That this is something where we could work together. If he would work, he doesn't want to work with us because we're sorry.
Bob, he don't care about working. Here's the deal.
No, he don't care.
It's all about him. It's what I'm saying. You give yourself a $90,000 raise when your people are making nothing, and you want to call yourself a leader. Wow. I mean, wow, that's not a leader. That's a person who only cares about himself. You want to wear a general's uniform and look all sweet and swanky and all that, and prep in here like you somebody. You didn't earn that. You didn't do anything. And yet you want your officers to buy their own uniforms when they're wore out. Why are you giving wore out uniforms to officers? Get you some damn uniforms and give them some decent ones, but don't make them buy their own. Don't make them put their own patches on when you strut around in a really nice and get everybody these. That is what you say is a piss poor leader. That's an example of a piss poor, not just a piss poor leader, a piss poor person. That's an example of a person who does that. You know what I'm saying? You remember when you was kids and somebody come in the store with 3 or 4, I've seen this, Bob. I've seen adults come in with kids and they get an ice cream and they got 3 or 4 kids. My father-in-law used to own a store and I was in the store all the time. And I've seen this happen more than once. Adult come in, 3 or 4 kids right there, and he'll eat an ice cream right in front of them. I'd go around there and buy them all an ice cream and say, here, and he'll let you do it. I've seen, and that's the kind of person, that kind of person is the type of person that'll take a $90,000 raise while his people go without, who will wear a.
Well, what about the kind of person who hires somebody from OMS over the doctors?
Fire
have no doctor's experience, has it there, and then they turn around and say, well, you can't do the job because you have no doctor's experience, so they have to hire a doctor. They leave her the same thing, the same job, same money.
And again, I do want to say this. If I was Dana, I would take the job. Okay. If I was her, I would have took the job if I was offered a job. So it's nothing against her.
No,
I like her. I get along with her. I think she probably is trying where she's at. But again, do I agree with it? And I'll tell Dana that to her face. I don't agree with it. I don't agree. But the problem is, why would Hart do that? Why would he do that? Why would he give her that job? Why would he get rid of? Those are the questions that we need answered. And then you're going to fly all around the United States having parties, and you're going to say, nope, y'all got to fix your own uniform. Yeah, that $30,000 that I spent can't go towards uniforms. That $1 million that we spent so we can walk in 1 or 2 times a year in a really swanky uniform, guess what? That would have paid for everybody's uniforms. Those 30, 40, 50, 100, whatever uniforms would have bought everybody else uniforms. Okay? That is the example that I'm talking about. But here's the problem, Bob. We're not talking about uniforms. We're talking about people's life and death. We're talking about people getting raped, and we're talking about people being beaten or strangled to death. And then we're talking about a group that will come in and cover it up. And again, I don't know the officers are involved in so much trying to cover up that he died or whatever, but I do know these officers have committed perjury because they are saying, or let me say this, based on what we have had reported, what we're being told that everybody,
the number of different people.
Yeah, everybody in the whole institution knows that this. I mean, they're the ones who called us, told us everything. And basically, if what we're being told by everybody in the institution about all that happened on this murder is that girl walked past there, that female officer walked past, the inmate said, hey, my cellie's dead. She goes on and finishes the count, which is going to take a good 15, 20 minutes, Bob. Goes back to the control room. We're told sits down, sits there for a minute, then finally says, now was that 10, 15 minutes? I don't know. Then she says, oh, by the way, that guy told me that his cellmate's dead down there. Then another officer has to go get up and go find out and verify the guy's dead. So one, their time frame is going to be completely off. What they're claiming happened did not happen. She didn't turn around, look, and then start the whole process. So that is not true based on what we're being told. Two, the time frame of what she expired, what she went and did, counting and go back, sit down. So that puts the time frame off. The person who discovered the body is off. That's pretty critical.
Well, that person did the right thing. He tried to do everything he could do to try to bring the guy back.
But again, that changes your whole case. If you got the guy that reported it, that actually went down there and found this guy dead, because he's going to be the first one on scene to go, okay, this is what I saw. This is where he was laying. This is what was going on. This is the whole deal. So, basically it's, I mean, you want to talk about perjury. If I was the DA and I found out that these people had lied about this and that they're doing all of this, basically, I would be filing charges on some people,
Well, I think it's pretty serious still, but not only that, the whole thing, even though when they tried to go in there and redo his time frame, not his time frame, but the date he died, the date that they sent it to the medical examiner, none of it matches.
No, well, here's the deal. It does when you look at the reports that they say he died on the 12th, but then they turned around and told the family that he died on the 17th. That's another thing. Why would the DOC lie to this family and say he died on the 17th when they know they worked the whole case on the 12th? They worked the case. But here's the other deal, Bob. When you look at, okay, they started the count at 2:00. They found him dead, say at 2:30. I'd have to go back and review everything. They found him dead at 2:30. Okay. Then again, they're saying she walked by. So if I was sitting there, I'd go, okay, you walked by that cell at 2:30. or 220, whatever the time frame. How long did it take you? Why were you this? Again, they're if you know what's going on, their time frames are going to be off. And so again, when did they move the body? Where was the body moved? Why did you move
They should have never moved the body. You don't move the body out of there. He should have took that inmate and put him in a cell by himself.
Right.
And they should have took him to medical too before they did that. To medical for his clothing, to check his clothing for blood. That should have been done. They didn't do that.
Well, again, did they work? Did they collect anything? Maybe that's the ME's job to collect on rape.
My understanding, what I've been told in the past, is they immediately take that inmate to medical and check for blood before they do anything.
Well, the thing about it is one, you would take, okay, so we're going to talk a little graphic. So if I offend people here, I'm not trying to, but I've been involved in a few investigations, know a little bit about it. So here's the deal. First of all, you would take the clothes, but here's what you would do. You would seal the room. You move the person out. So you move the person out of the cell, the perpetrator. Okay.
Right.
You move him to a place and then you stop right there. You get him out, you seal the room. Okay. That's what you do. You know why? Because you're going to it's a chain of custody issue. So you wait till whoever's investigating the case to get there. You do absolutely nothing else. If you want to do something, take pictures, do nothing else. Take lots of pictures. Don't disturb. Take pictures from the outside at every angle that you can get. But that's it. Don't do anything else. Let the investigators. Then did you seize his clothes? Did you get all his clothes? Because guess what? There's going to be blood evidence. There may be semen evidence. There may be all kinds of evidence on those clothes to show things that were going on. And so again, if he was raped, then that evidence is going to be there. Get the evidence off the other one. Get his clothes. I think they did have medical look at him. But again, those are things you're going to want to do. And you're going to get the videotapes. You're going to want to question people. You're going to want to question everybody that's on it.
The inmates around the area, they had to hear it. You couldn't have done this without other inmates hearing the noise. This was during the day, 2 p.m.
Sure. But here's the other thing, Bob. You're going to question everybody that was on that shift. You're going to question everybody that was on the night shift. Okay. So the thing about it is, did you do that? And what time frame did this investigation? You showed me what time that investigator got there and what time that investigator left. And I can tell you right then, this wasn't done properly.
No, they moved the body before the investigator got there.
Yeah, that's the report that we've got. And so again,
I don't remember on the report if it said that they removed the body.
Well, like I said, I've got reason to believe all that, and we can. I think we can show that. But at the same time, here's the question: was it done properly? I think I can show you it was not done properly. And then here's the other thing, Bob. I spent a lot of time trying to gather the information before I ever requested that they send me records, okay? Because I knew that they'd go to destroying it. If they knew I was looking at it, they'll go destroying it. And again, by the way, anybody involved in that, Director, let me advise you, if you do destroy evidence in a murder, it's called obstruction of justice. You can be charged with that. And I will happily push those charges if we find out that you're involved in anything like that, or anybody else. Again, that's why I didn't ask, because I believe there are people in there that would do that. And I believe they have changed dates and done all kinds of stuff. So again, Bob, that's what we're saying. Just like when we started talking about the officer getting stabbed. Are there reports there? How do you get you can't get anything. You can't get anything. officers having urine thrown on them, officers having feces. Officers, y'all need to listen up. That's a felony. It's called bodily fluids on an officer. Any other agency would file on anybody who did that to one of their officers. If your department is not filing that, please get a hold to me. Y'all call me. I don't need, I won't, all I need to know is the incident and how to go about looking it up, and I'll take it from there. And if I can find out these incidents are going on, if I can find out that we are having assaults and they're not writing them up, if I can find out that they're telling y'all to not report these, I will go after it. You can call me anonymously. You can get a hold of Bob anonymously. There's people in the department that people know me. If you want to go through one of those and keep your name out of it, you call, and as long as I can find out when the incident occurred, what facility it occurred at, a little bit of information, what inmates involved, you just let me know. And that's going to be one of our next goals, is to go after and start showing all the lies and all the covering up. And it's too late for them, Bob, because I'm going to guarantee you they've had 400, 350, 400 deaths. I can go back and look at those. My problem, Bob, I don't get paid to do that. I'm doing DHS, I'm doing DAs, I'm doing OMMA, I'm doing DOC, I'm doing OCC stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'm spread out, as well as taking care of, and you know how what I'm talking about, Bob, here, to file all the bills that we have to file, keep track of them, make committee meetings. You're on 3 or 4 committee meetings, the budget, all of that. That right there in and by itself makes you pretty busy. And then stack up all the stuff that I'm talking about. You know what?
Well, then they don't want to be transparent. They don't want to say anything that's going on. You have to go and dig out more, just like he does on everything he's done there. He's broke himself. Now, my understanding is that he's cut out programs. We don't have enough programs to start with.
Bob, we barely have any programs. When we had the budget deficit, we had $1 billion in the hole about 8 years ago. They cut all that stuff out. I don't know that he started that much. They've got a few programs, but to cut program, I mean, what are you going to say? Nothing from nothing's nothing. I mean, they may have 1 or 2 programs. They don't have a whole lot of programs. But for him to even say, you know, because Bob, this is the picture he tries to paint, that he wants to change inmates' lives and that he wants to, make them better and make this a better place. And we all going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya and all that. Well, guess what? You're cutting officers. You're cutting their pay by, by taking away their uniforms and making them pay. You're wanting them to go salary where overtime don't count. You're doing all of this while you're making great big money. And again, Bob, he wants to paint that picture like he's got everything under control when it's all falling apart. But again, at the end of the day, it's the rapes, it's the extortions, it's the brutality, it's the human rights violations. That's what's going to get him in the end. He thinks that he's just on a ride for the next 2 or 3 years.
Well, he can do anything he wants to do because he has Stitt in his back pocket. Stitt ignores everything going on. And
well, that's what he thinks.
Whatever he makes stats to him, and he doesn't tell the truth.
Well, Bob, he's used to business. And again, in business, if you do a bad job, they just kick you down the road and fire you, and you go to the next one. And what this guy's never been, and he hasn't went through the training, and he doesn't know, and he just doesn't know. And he doesn't realize that when you lock somebody in a 2x2 cell and you withhold food and you withhold water and you don't give them a bathroom break and you keep them there for 9 days, that's called a human rights violation, and you can go to prison for that. And
I don't know. This is a human rights violation that's happened to this Ross kid.
Oh, absolutely.
Listen, you're talking federal. This is
civil
federal.
rights. Here's the deal, Bob. We have a snapshot showing that he should have got out 11/19/23. Okay. Now, again, they've changed it so much, who knows? But if he should have got out 10 months before, that he was sent to OSP. So one, he's doing 2 years. He's nonviolent. He's on a nonviolent crime. He has no record. Okay. So guess what? This guy's minimum all day should have been out in about a year. Okay. Now he's already a year past what you normally think he's in. If he assaulted an officer, fine. Show us the records. Did you file charges? I bet you 1,000 you did. So here's the thing. That's where we're going to be looking at. And if they kept him a year past the time that he was supposed to, 10 months, 5 days. If he was in there 5 days past what he's supposed to and he got killed, oh, yeah, that's a massive civil rights violation. Again, if they put him in that cell and knew that that guy was a brutal inmate, there's a reason why he's in the cell by himself. And here's the deal: nobody wants to say this, but did they put him in the cell on purpose? I mean, did they put him in there to have the hell beat out of him? Maybe raped? I don't know. Those are the questions that are got. I hate that.
I would be willing to bet they find out that this guy that he was in the cell with has a history.
Oh, Bob, I can bet you $100 that it is true. But Bob, that's just like we started this conversation with Kay Thompson, and that, reporting extortions. Oh, they're always lies. The inmate's always involved in it. No, the inmate's not always involved in it. Now, sometimes they are, but it's still extortion. And our flippant attitude of, oh, well, that's prison.
We're in prison.
Yeah, it's prison. It happens. No, it's happening. That's the deal. Yes, we have always had extortion in prison. Yes, we've always had rape in prison. Yes, we've always had murders. But when I was in there, if you had 1 or 2 murders, if you'd had 3 or 4 in a year, we'd been talking like, what?
How many deaths we had this week? 6 deaths?
4 or 5. Again, Bob, how do you keep up with it? Because they are telling people not to report, and you're not getting the information. And now they're changing how I used to kind of stay up on stuff. I'm having to work my butt off now to get an estimate.
They used to let everybody know about the problems in the prison. So
Bob, I've got a lot of people calling me, telling me how bad it is. But the people calling me, telling me about these assaults, rapes, stabbings, and all that have slowed down significantly because they're all scared. When you talk to anybody, I will tell you this, people are even scared to talk. People that I grew up with do not want to talk to me right here at my building because they're afraid. So I got people that I grew up with that I know that we may not even be talking about DLC, about something else. If I want to buy a cow from or something, I got to meet them somewhere else because they don't want to be seen talking to me where somebody from prison might go by and go, oh, they're talking to JJ, because they say if he finds out they're talking to me, he will fire them. Now, again, that's a pretty small individual, person. So,
he spends a lot of time worried about us.
Right.
Sorry, I saw it in this lock.
Yeah. So it's it is insane that he does that. I can't believe the way he acts. So it's wild, but we'll keep working on him and exposing. But I hope that the FBI will come in. I hope, but Bob, I want everybody to understand when we're talking about these human rights violations. I've got reports of officers throwing a guy down on suicide watch, beating the hell out of him. 5 of them, pick him up, throw him on the bed, beating the hell out of him some more, cutting his clothes off because he's all bloody. Guys, if you're involved in stuff like that, you need to write a report. You need to come clean. If you've seen stuff like that, if you've been involved in stuff like that, you need to write a report, come clean. That's the way you stay out of trouble, because now I can tell you all of that stuff's been turned over to the FBI. And again, just like on these shower incidents, I have absolute 100 proof. And again, I've got emails where I wrote the director and said, hey, this is going on. And they wrote me back and said, no, it ain't going on. and then they did a 100-something page investigation, even though I know they have these records that show that it was done for punishment, that it was done, and they did all this. Even though they have those records, they come back with a 100-something page report saying, oh, yeah, we were just moving them and we had to hold them in there a second, 3 days. Nobody held over 3 days. Well, you go stand in a 2x2 cell for 3 days, limited food, limited water, and no bathroom break. You go over and stand in that 3 days, come back and talk to me and tell me that that's not a human rights violation. I mean,
on this deal with Ross, actually, we're talking about two different situations here, how they didn't call the family, or they say they called the family, but everybody else got a hold of them, but they couldn't get a hold of them. But they didn't.
Here's the deal. They're saying, well, that's a third-party contractor. So here's the deal. The family gets an email on the 13th. So the guy dies on the 12th. The family gets an email on the 13th saying, your inmate is going to higher security. Now, from what I'm seeing and what I can tell, and now this is some just patchwork, but this group that gets hold of them is generally about 3 to 4 days. So if I was guessing, I would say somewhere around the 8th, he probably got transferred to OSP. I could be wrong, but generally what I hear is this: when they notify you that, hey, you're going to higher security, they're generally about 3 or 4 days behind when they actually send them. Now, again, I'm making those deductions because the sorry Department of Corrections won't send me nothing. I've already asked for it to show when this guy was transferred, because guess what? When they start giving me their records, I'm fixing to tattoo them because I'll catch them in a lie. But here's the thing. I've already done, so that group sent that email. Well, the department says that's a third-party group. That's a third-party contractor. Well, who are they contracting to? Who are they working for? They're working for you. They're down there with you. They got the same records. How is it that your contractor can email them, but you can't even find them? How is it that all these emails are going here and the families had contact with all kinds of people, but you can't contact them? That's truly amazing. But then why would that be? You know, it gets there the 13th. It could have been they sent it out later. Who knows? And they may not have been coordinating. So that's possible why that is. But then the family doesn't find out till the 19th, and they get told by inmate's family. So an inmate at OSP calls his family, says, reach out to the other family and tell them their loved one's dead. Now they call and find out on the 17th, the department tells them he died the 17th, when they know that's an out-and-out lie. They've been involved. In fact, I believe the person who told them that was involved in this investigation in a sort. You know what I'm saying? Was involved in that. So again, that person knew that was a lie and told a intentional lie to these people to try to cover up how long this inmate had been dead. And why, I had no idea. So again, all of this is there. They're going to go to a murder hearing. That happens 12/19. I've got to call into the DA to say, hey, you need to know, and he ain't called me back yet, but I'm going to tell the DA, you need to know there's a good chance these people, again, this is the reports we're receiving from prison, but the reports I have received is that whoever has set that out, that girl went in there and found that's a lie, according to what we're told. The officer that was transferred was the one who found it. Guess what? You can start calling these people in, and I promise you, if they're getting in there and they're told if you say something, it's perjury, this whole thing's going to blow up, or should blow up, if what we're being told is true. And I believe what we're being told is true because
when you hear it from as many people that called us, it'd be hard to believe that all these guys are lying.
Well, Bob, we went out that, like I say, before we ever knew about this murder, before I ever we were discussing that very thing. How can you walk past that cell, God tell you, and you don't even stop? You go do all the count. And we were talking about, wonder how long it took her to do that count. Wonder how long she sat in there and, said all.
The other thing that's like I mentioned this a while ago that they did wrong too is the way what they did. They didn't take his clothes. They botched everything, and they
We
took
don't
him
know. We
out.
don't know yet the total investigation and what they did take or what they didn't take. It doesn't appear like they took that. So, again, you got to look at the time frame. So they may have took his clothes. We don't know, but the bottom line is the time frame it's taken. Did you move the body? Who took the clothes? What's the the evidence? The chain of evidence. Was the chain of evidence broken? And it does look like all that. You know what I'm saying? When you look at what's going on, it does look like that. But we got that to prove. You know what I'm saying? We got rumors and we're told, but we got that to prove. And again, that's going to be. But once we get the record, guess what? They've got an investigation. I would tell y'all, if y'all's listening, I know y'all listen. Hey, if you're listening, go change that investigation. I dare you. Go change that investigation, because then you'll be committing perjury, and we'll have you for obstruction, and we'll have you for falsifying state documents and all that. Guys, this is going to get serious. I'm looking into this. We're going to file a probably federal lawsuit over this. All of this will come out. And again, right now's the time. Just come forward and say, hey, you know what? I just felt pressured, and just come forward and be straight up. Go tell the DA. Come holler at us. I'll help you. I will help you. And again, if he goes after you, I can't swear he wouldn't fire you. But hey, being fired is better than going to jail. Being fired is better than having felony charges behind this job, sucker. And you know what I'm saying? Do what's right. Do what's right, and you'll be better off for it. And again, if you come forward, we'll work with you as a whistleblower, and we'll try to get you protection under that. And we're going to work on that. But I want to encourage you, if you know that's perjury, don't perjure yourself. Please don't. Take care of business. Do what's right. Tell the truth.
Well, JJ, that ends our show today, but we appreciate everybody tuning in. And if you have any questions or concerns, like JJ said, you give us a call, and we'll be back next week.
Bob, we didn't even get to talk about extortion. We're going to have to talk a little bit more about this extortion next week, too.
You sure do. We need to talk about that, because that's even bigger than it was. But I understand it's always been there a little bit.
Not like this, Bob.
Everything's like that. Everything it is. Well, we did this a little bit, but now it's worse. But I couldn't think of one reason that someone could tell me it's worse now than it's ever been. Well, we heard that a month ago, and they say no, it's worse than it was.
Every day it's worse. It's worse today, and I think it is. And I think if they put some people on that pod in OSP without getting them some help, it's even going to get worse, I think. Hey, Bob, we're going to get off here, but, man, I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate OCP. And, we might want to talk about legislation that we're going to try to get some, because we're going to work on that whistleblower. It's going to be one of the main things we do.
All right. Well, thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.